This video was brought to you by Henson Shaving. On Sunday, Japan went to the polls for a snap election, called by the ruling LDP after their new Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, opted to dissolve parliament early. Well, the polls didn't look great going into the election. In the end, things went worse than Ishiba probably expected, with the scandal-tainted LDP winning just 191 seats in the House of Representatives, well short of the 233 required for a majority, and way down from the 256 that they enjoyed before the election. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the LDP's long-standing dominance in Japanese politics, why they lost Sunday's election, and what might happen next. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. So let's start with some context. As you might know, for most of modern history, Japanese politics has been dominated by a single party, the Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP. While there are lots of different factions within the LDP, they are broadly speaking a conservative and nationalist party, who were formed in 1955 as a merger of two conservative parties. Since then, the LDP has governed Japan almost uninterrupted, except for two short periods out of power, from 1993 to 1994, and from 2009 to 2012. They asserted their political dominance in the 20th century, overseeing first Japan's post-war recovery and its economic miracle in the 70s and 80s, when Japan became the richest country in the G7 and one of the highest GDP per capita in the entire world. The LDP's dominance has also been helped by Japan's electoral system. For context, Japan has a bicameral parliament, i.e. two chambers. The lower chamber, the House of Representatives, is elected by an additional member system, with roughly 60% of the 465 MPs elected via first-past-the-post in single-seat constituencies, and the remaining 40% elected via a party list system in 11 regional blocks. However, unlike other additional member systems in, say, Scotland and Wales, these remaining seats aren't distributed to compensate for the disproportionality of the first-past-the-post seats, which means that the LDP often win a majority of seats with less than 50% of the vote. Japan also has a smaller upper chamber called the House of Councillors, but this chamber is less politically powerful than the House of Representatives, so it's not even really relevant for this video. Anyway, the last lower house election was in 2021, where the LDP was re-elected yet again, led by then Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. But within a few years, Kishida's cabinet approval rating had collapsed, and the LDP was sinking in the polls, as a result of a series of scandals, including one related to the LDP's links to the controversial Unification Church, and another involving the LDP's powerful factions misreporting campaign funds, putting money into illegal slush funds. Kishida announced his resignation earlier this year, and was replaced as party leader and prime minister by Shigeru Ishiba a month ago. Ishiba had sort of an outsider status within the party for his outspoken criticism of past LDP leadership, and he even defeated staunch conservative and Shinzo Abe protege Sanai Takaichi at the party leadership election. This is one of the reasons that the LDP have governed for so long. They've got a whole load of factions within the party who can rise and fall to match public opinion. Anyway, having promised to reform and restore trust in the LDP, Ishiba quickly opted to dissolve parliament and hold an early election. Ishiba probably decided to do this for two reasons. Firstly, he was clearly trying to take advantage of a presumed public approval bounce as new prime minister. And secondly, he sought to use the election to assert power within the party by winning a popular party mandate for his policy platform. However, Ishiba's first few weeks of campaigning weren't particularly smooth sailing. Even as the LDP's leader, he's still somewhat isolated within the party and struggled to control a boisterous right-wing contingent within the LDP. He also made a series of early policy U-turns, and his cabinet approval ratings were pretty poor, with one poll giving his cabinet the lowest initial support since 2000. In the end, the LDP ended up winning just 191 seats in the House of Representatives, well down from the 256 they enjoyed before the election. This is also the LDP's second worst result in history, and the only time that they've won fewer seats was in 2009. This means that even with their junior coalition partner, Komeito, a smaller Buddhist-inspired party who won 24 seats at the election, and whom the LDP rely on for their majority in the House of Councillors, the LDP still won't be able to form a majority in the lower house. As part of the ruling coalition, Komeito have also had to grapple with public discontent, and as a result also lost a lot of its seats, including that of its newly elected leader. On the other side of the aisle, Japan's main opposition party, the Center to Center-Left Constitutional Democratic Party, or CDP, did pretty well, winning 148 seats, 50 more than they had before. Like other parties, the CDP also recently changed their leader, electing former Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda, who moved the party towards the center to pick up conservative-leaning voters who are dissatisfied with the LDP. So, what happens next? Well, there are broadly two options. An LDP-led coalition with not just Komeito, but also at least one other smaller party, or a fragmented opposition coalition led by the CDP. As we see it, the LDP-led coalition does look more likely, just because the diversity of ideological opinion among the opposition means that forming a multi-party coalition would be difficult. For instance, the CDP's pivot to the centre has strained ties with the Communist Party, with whom they previously coordinated the fielding of candidates to maximise the opposition vote. Similarly, the third biggest party in the lower house, Ishin, is a slightly eclectic right-wing party, who don't get on all that well with the CDP. Conversely, the LDP might be able to cobble together a majority here. There's some speculation that they might bring back some of their ex-LDP MPs who were kicked out of the party because of their role in the slush fund scandal, but who still won their constituencies as independents. If this isn't enough, they could also bring in a smaller party like the Democratic Party for the People, who are ideologically not too dissimilar from the LDP, and were, proportionally speaking, one of the biggest winners out of the election, going from 11 to 28 seats. There's even been some talk that they could bring Ishin into the mix, although Ishin officials have pushed back against these reports. As such, another option is an LDP-led minority government with case-by-case support from the aforementioned parties. Nonetheless, even if the LDP holds on to power, things could still be difficult for them. They were already becoming less popular, and governing a wider coalition, or perhaps a minority government, will be a harder job than they had before. The results will also undermine Ishiba's leadership, and probably trigger more infighting and calls for his resignation. All in all, even if the LDP can hang on, they now face an uphill struggle to regain their popularity and political dominance. And whether the new Prime Minister can actually do this is going to be a tight-run thing. If you're sick of the gimmicks that other shaving brands use, the subscriptions, moisturizing strips, lasers, whatever, then you'll want to check out Henson. Because, and here's the dirty secret about the razor industry, even the cheapest dollar store disposable razor will likely give you a reasonably good shave. The challenge is the impact they'll have on your skin. So to protect your skin while shaving, you need to actually support the blade properly. And Henson can provide that quality shave, even with cheap blades, thanks to the Henson razor, which they produce at their aerospace machine shop, which has also produced parts for the ISS, and which perfectly holds blades at a 30-degree angle, and extends them only 0.0013 inches, less than the width of a human hair. In classic TLDR style, that's important for 3 reasons. Firstly, it's way cheaper. Those fancy blade cartridges aren't necessarily designed to provide a better experience for shaving. They're about jacking up prices. Instead, Henson's razor takes standard razor blades that cost just 10 cents each, meaning that while the initial handle might be more expensive, in the long run you'll save a ton of cash. Secondly, it's far better for the environment to be using individual blades rather than joining the 2 billion razor cartridges thrown away every year in the US alone, with Henson's products containing no plastic at all, even in their packaging. Finally, this superb engineering and precise blade tech just provides an incredible shave. If you want to try it out, click the link in the description, then add a razor and 100 blades to your cart. Once you've done that, use our discount code TLDR at checkout, and you'll get all of those blades totally free.